Hello, hello. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Paul?
Doing great. Thank you so much. It looks like you're at the mad laboratory over there,
Yep. All the instruments, all the things kind of happening simultaneously. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where all the magic happens. I love it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, it's good to get a peek inside too, because sometimes we watch, these things and we wonder, how in the world do they do all this? And then sometimes it's well, not as complicated as people might think, but it's still pretty magical, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Always. And you got all the little toys, the synths and
Ah, there it is. Yeah.
piano and all that stuff. So.
Hmm. Oh, that's so cool. Is that where you worked on this show?
Yeah, yeah, for the most part. I also worked a little bit out at my house. But for the most part, yeah, most part everything was done here, and we recorded the orchestra in Nashville. But most of the soloists and whatnot were recorded here in my studio here in New York. So,
Yeah. And that's got to be such a joy to work on because what a cool show, right?
oh man, yeah, it was an absolute joy. I mean, very, very rare that at least, I guess I haven't had yet this opportunity to write 4.5 hours of orchestral music and record it all live. So for that reason, pretty unique experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a little bit nerve-wracking? Because I mean, obviously you know what you're doing, but still, it's a
Yeah.
lot, right?
I mean, yeah, it's probably, double my total orchestral music output in a matter of 6 months. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's intimidating, but you kind of can't really think about it too much about like what you're about to get into. You just kind of have to dive in and do it piece by piece, one thing at a time. It's kind of funny. Like I was listening to a guy talk about running like an ultra marathon, and it's kind of
Yeah.
he thinks about it. His goal was to run like 75 miles a day or something like that. It was like
Mm.
insane. He was going to run across the U.S. and thinking about it in terms of like 75 miles a day, you're just never going to get through it. But if you can do 2 minutes or two
Mhm.
miles, like X amount of times per day, he thinks about it in those
Mhm.
sort of small chunks. So you kind of have to break it up like that and think about it in these sort of small little segments that you're slowly pushing towards.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, hey, anything for Michael Douglas, right?
Yeah, exactly,
He's
exactly.
wonderful. I mean, we had him on the show a couple of times, and you just
Oh,
just
great.
so just so distinct. Like, how you doing, Paul? Like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, what a character. I know, I
Yeah.
know.
And
Yeah.
did you get have you had much interaction with him since, or been able to talk about any of this, or?
Not much. Yeah, I mean, most of my interaction was really with the showrunner. So,
Yeah.
like, and some other producers and whatnot. But yeah, Tim Van Patten and Catherine Farrell were kind of my point
Yes.
people, and who are both just absolutely amazing humans and so creative and so supportive. And also a lot of interactions with Michael Hill, the music supervisor,
Yes.
Casey Cohen, my music editor. So those were all my point people for the most part. But man, it was such a blessing to work with them. They were all like really, really amazing people. Yeah, super creative and like gave me my space to do my thing, and it was great. So
Probably never look at your bills the same again. The cash. You're like,
yeah,
oh, there's Franklin.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Well, bringing something like that to life is kind of special because you think about like when we were kids, reading about these people, and then it really gets like fleshed out in a real way for kind of the first time that we've seen it like this, and that's got to be kind of interesting to maybe your little kid self too, right?
yeah. I mean, and this part of his story was not something, because I think everyone kind of knows about his inventions and all those things, but
Mhm.
this is kind of a very unique aspect of him in sort of the role of diplomacy, and his role in the American Revolution and really,
Mhm.
bringing in the French as allies and support and the financial means to be able to fight. So yeah, there was a lot of learning for me in this actually because I hadn't read the book that it was initially based on.
Yeah.
So this was all sort of new information for me. So I hope it's like, yeah, illuminating a little bit of a different side of who Benjamin Franklin is, not just sort of his inventor, publisher self. So.
Yeah. And what was that first piece of music maybe that you heard in a TV show or movie that made you think, I kind of want to do this?
Oh man. I mean, I think, funny enough, I think distinctly it's two movies as a kid. What was Prince of Egypt?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
I was into musicals as well, but big Hans Zimmer score and
Hmm.
great songs and but then also Gladiator for sure. I think
Hmm.
those were the ones that I was first like really kind of drew me into it. Um, and then I've loved Paul Thomas Anderson's films and scores
Hmm.
for such a long time. So I remember Punch Drunk Love really striking me hard with the score. And so yeah, that I like because I was still in the classical music world up until about 2008 or 2009 when I kind of decided to make a bit of a pivot into film and television work. So.
Hmm. And were you the kid that was playing in band and then
Yeah,
playing in rock bands and that kind of thing?
yeah. I like as a in middle school and high school, I played in like grunge bands and punk rock
Yeah.
bands and hardcore bands, and I kind of got
Hmm.
my writing bug. I think there I was writing a lot of the songs and co-writing them with my bandmates, but I would also produce and I learned to record, just on a small tiny condenser mic that came with my computer. So I was using Cakewalk and recording bands and mixing my bands. And then kind of learned how to use a 4 track and an 8 track and yeah,
Hmm.
tape and stuff. So then I started producing my brother's band, and and so all of those things sort of led to me having the skill sets to be able to both compose and produce. And so now I've been, I mean, it's crazy to think, but I've been composing like classical music, or at least stuff for choir and orchestral instrumentation for almost like 25 years now. I started when I was like around
Yeah.
16, 17, so
Hmm.
been doing it for a while.
Yeah. It's amazing when you go back and think about it, right? Like, how did this happen? Where did the
Yeah,
time go?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, and it's been pretty much just sitting in studios for about 20 something years.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
that's true.
Yeah,
It is that is interesting that you bring that up because it is kind of a lonely process sometimes, right?
yeah.
I mean, if, eventually you do work with other musicians, but now of course we can do all these files and send them, remotely and all that stuff. And so, sometimes it's got to be, somewhat of a lonely thing because people can't, there's not like one person sitting there helping you the whole time. So it's got to be an interesting process. You got to be okay with yourself, right?
Totally, and yeah, and I think I'm very lucky in that I met another composer while I was in grad school, Trevor Grekus,
Yeah.
who's also a film and TV composer,
Hmm.
and we've been friends and collaborators and own a company together, which is we're in the
Yeah.
studio of Found
Hmm.
Objects right now. We've been working together and friends for a long time, so it's always great. He's right on the other side of the wall here working on his show.
Good.
So
Good.
it's not as lonely as it could be for sure.
Yeah.
But I also make it a point. I always think it's great to bring in my soloists when
Mhm.
especially when I'm in an experimentation phase, and bringing them in and working with them, one on one, so that I can kind of explore sounds, explore ideas, and hear it
Mhm.
in the instrument. And I feel like that sort of one on one in person interaction just yields some really interesting results. So I try to keep that as much of a process, part of my process as possible. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and also, how does that work? Sometimes, because you maybe with this show or maybe with other ones, you'll get part of a show, or maybe you'll get sometimes scenes. Sometimes you'll get a whole episode. Sometimes
Yeah.
you'll get the whole. Like everything is in a different way. So, in what state did you get this one
Get Franklin. I mean,
in?
honestly, they
Hmm.
were pretty far along in the edits.
Good.
Most everything I got, I didn't get the whole show at the same time, but
Mm-hmm.
the first couple episodes I got, network cuts, and could start writing pretty quickly, and yeah, so with a show of this size, I feel like you really have to see it on screen, how those things play, the production design, just the scale of it all in order to really understand what's going to work best, scoring wise and production wise, and kind of how big you can take it. So it was definitely necessary to see that. And thankfully they were already there. So
Yeah.
which didn't mean I had which meant I didn't have like a lot of time to actually get into it. But
Hmm.
sometimes I kind of prefer that. I like, my first intuition is usually the one that I really go with. Something
Mhm.
that feels like a natural response to the film or to the show. So yeah, I dove right in, and it was kind of my first intuition there that felt really, felt really good. And I started at
Yeah.
the top,
Yeah.
started at Q1 and just started, working right through the first episode. So
Oh, I love that. Well, so a lot of people look up to what you do and think that's the coolest job in the world, and sometimes it is, but it's
yeah.
also, not as easy as people probably think either. So, what kind of advice do you give to people that are looking to follow in your footsteps and do what you do?
It is a yeah, it's a hard line of work to go into. It's a lot of
Mhm.
hours, you definitely got to focus and work on working on your craft. I think establishing a voice first. But not being discouraged if you want to do this, not being discouraged that it's going to take a while for a career to develop. And it's not just about being able to, write great music if you don't have relationships with the people who are making the type of film that you want to work on. So, stay the course and certainly work hard and write great music, but also like develop relationships and collaborators and communities of people that you want to work with and that you want to work with regularly. Um, uh, so yeah, I think that's kind of what's worked for me at least, and I'm sure there's a million different paths to it. Uh, but for myself, that's kind of the way I've done it is like, yeah, I worked harder than anyone else I knew and just kind of, went out there and put myself out and made some great relationships and thankfully here I am still doing the thing.
Yeah. And and that interesting though is it's usually you find the people that work the hardest, the ones that were just going for it, are the ones that we know about now, right?
Yeah, yeah, and people will oftentimes see those things as sort of overnight successes, even though they don't see all of those hours that those people put in behind the scenes. There's a great book called Atomic Habits
Hmm.
that I really enjoyed that I thought illustrated it really well, which is like our understanding of where we think we should be in our career. It like is kind of proportionate to the amount of time and effort that we put into it, but like
Hmm.
but it's not like a straight line like this. It's like you put in the effort and it is like at some point it's like a parabola and it just like it goes through the roof and the outcome can be far beyond your wild expectations. But essentially this sort of point here where it's like below this line, but like you're down here is
Yeah.
this valley of despair where most people give up, because because they get discouraged and they don't see it taking off as quickly as they think it should. But
Hmm.
really, it's just the persistence and staying in the game and still doing great work, and then it slowly starts to build, and those things kind of like kind of take off.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, that just like happened overnight. They did one thing and it just blew up.
Yeah.
So
That's usually it. Well, you'll like this. My co-host Drew Pearson is one of our great Dallas Cowboys. Caught the Hail Mary, went in the Hall of Fame. We love to ask people their Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it and it worked out for you. So curious to know what that was for you.
oh man. Honestly, like yeah, one of the biggest risks, I guess, if it's like a risk I took, was starting Found Objects and building my first recording studio in Manhattan.
Hmm.
Like worked with Trevor for a number of years. We saved up as much money as we could, and we really believed that if we had a studio space that had our equipment in it that we could bring clients to, that we could kind of establish ourselves as people really working professionally in this industry. We could have parties there and bring people through and not
Hmm.
have directors just come to our apartments, and that would give us some sort of professionalism that would speak to people that we wanted to work with. And I think that actually worked out. So we kind of dropped every dollar that we had, rented the studio space, and built our first recording studio, and launched Found Objects in Manhattan in like I guess it was around like 2013 or so.
Oh,
Um,
that's so cool. So are you ever just sitting there with the director going and looking at him, go see, we did the right thing here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. Yeah,
Oh, that's so cool. And but also being that we're creative types, we're often hard on ourselves. We have to keep that success mindset, whether we're feeling it or not. And some days the note doesn't come to you or the chord doesn't come to you. So is there
yeah.
something that you keep in mind that kind of keeps you on the right path even when those things are tough?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely the hardest on myself for sure, and
Mhm.
I've been pretty good at learning to kind of work through that and not judge myself too harshly and just allow myself to iterate and like you kind of have to get through maybe a bad idea or two before something sticks. But honestly, for me as of late, the biggest thing that's kind of helped my creative process is actually just trying to establish a little bit more balance.
Yeah.
Because I used to grind so hard and do all
Mhm.
night long, sessions, and that is just not sustainable for me anymore. So I'm
Mhm.
a little bit more measured in it, and just try to get some stuff down, even if it's not like perfect, and allow myself
Yeah.
to do that, and then I'll come back to it. But I try to spend a little bit of time every day on the piano and just kind of practicing playing some classical music, and kind of
Mhm.
getting sounds in my hands so that I can kind of freely work from there. So that's kind of a thing, and then just like taking walks and breaks and stepping away from something sometimes
Yeah.
is better than just like trying to power through it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and so now, of course, you've worked on so many things, and people will probably ask you about what was this like, or what was this like? What is the one that you keep hearing about all the time that people are like, I got to know about this.
Which project?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, a lot of people ask about the Kaufman film for sure.
yeah, hmm
Yeah, like what it was like working with Charlie, which
hmm
was actually amazing. It was
He's
such an
great.
yeah, he's
Hmm
incredible. I mean, and I had very much admired his work, previously, and I loved his writing style. I loved his imagination, and this opportunity on I'm Thinking of Ending Things was one that just really, allowed me to think about things in that sort of heady space. Thinking about
hmm
things kind of philosophically, and trying to see how it fit within the context of this character and his sort of imagined world, which was such an interesting intellectual exercise that I hadn't really had the opportunity to do in film work before. And Charlie was just like super, super trusting, and especially when it came to the ballet. Which was kind of like my one of the things that like one of the pieces I'm most proud of for sure, is that like 7 minute long ballet, and how it plays in with the narrative, and sort of his imagined, it's like he's referencing Debussy and Ravel and Stravinsky in
hmm
his own mind as he imagines this ballet playing out a life he never
Yeah.
really lived. And that was such an interesting exercise, and really Charlie, yeah, really trusted me to do that. Like I just wrote the ballet based on a paragraph of like a scene
hmm
description on like all the different things that were happening throughout this ballet sequence. So
Yeah.
I just ran with it, and like he kind of gave me no notes. He was like, "I love it. Sounds great." And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, uh, that's great. I mean, I was a little insecure about that, but it all worked out."
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. So
Yeah.
what was it about this one? Because you get scripts all the time now. What was it about this one that stood out to you that you're like, all right, this is going to be a good one to do?
Oh, with Franklin. I mean, yeah.
Hmm
I mean, obviously, like, yeah. I knew it was going to probably live somewhat in an orchestral palette, which really is what I feel like one of my biggest strengths is. My
hmm
background's in concert music composition, so being able to uh, do something that's like a modern orchestral score mixed with like Baroque and classical influences, and knowing Tim's work previously as well, and kind of his way of storytelling and visual aesthetic, and hearing about his vision for that. I was so excited because it kind of like was checking all of the boxes on things that I want to be doing more of. I love period pieces. I love writing for an orchestral palette and a hybrid orchestral
hmm
palette. It was great to be able to flex my muscles on the Baroque stuff as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and an amazing team, you know what I mean? Like if it's awesome when the work is really great, but it is even, it's even better when the people that you get to work with are good people that support you, and you can have a good time doing it. So
Yeah, I love that. Well, last thing then, of course, I love seeing when your name pops up. We know we're getting great music. So, what are we going to see coming up from you, or that's I guess that you're allowed to talk about?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I'm allowed to talk about them all, but yeah, I'm working on another Apple series, which is a called Before with Billy Crystal, which is like a
Yeah,
psychological thriller, which will be pretty exciting. I am doing season 2 of Tell Me Lies, which is I
yes.
did season 1 of that, which is like opposite end of the spectrum
Oh yeah.
from Franklin, or I'm thinking of Ending Things or Before even. And then I'm working on a feature with David Mamet. So his
Yeah.
new feature. And yeah, there's a couple other features down the pipeline this year, which I'm very excited about. Some friends are doing some features, so yeah, will be some fun new collaborations, and some directors I've worked with before, and some new directors on their features. So it'll be good.
Ah, that's great. Well, congratulations on everything, and congratulations on the show. It's such a joy to watch, and look forward to seeing what you'll have coming up, and looking forward to talking to you again sometime very soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much for having
Okay.
me. And yeah, good to chat with you, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.